by nature, I'm a debater, all right, for better or worse. I love to interact with those who differ. If I have my druthers, I prefer getting calls from people that differ with me than people who agree with me. If I had my druthers when I go to give a talk on a campus, I'd rather do a debate than just do a talk. I love to have my views challenged. I love to interact. That's not the issue. And I'll reach out patiently to those who differ as much as I have the opportunity to. But there are folks who are critical. They have rejected your position or my position. They're not in our camp. I will never satisfy them. You will never satisfy them. I'm not saying they're bad people or evil people. I'm simply saying, in most cases, it is a waste of time. I tweeted this out. One thing I've learned recently when it comes to refuting myths and exaggerations and misconceptions, it's a lot easier to start a fire than to put one out. Conspiracy theories are hard to debunk. If someone is going to claim that I'm a 33-degree Mason or whatever it's called, and I said, I don't know anything about being a Mason, you go, aha, that proves it. You're denying it. It's very difficult to refute that kind of nonsense. And what I'm seeing as I do my best to define things, to address things scripturally, to address things based on experience and what I know, if it doesn't fit the conspiratorial theory, it's going to be rejected out of hand. That's going to be further proof that I'm part of the conspiracy. How do you deal with that? How do you refute that? And is it even worth your time to try to dispel someone of a false notion that's not based on truth? Let me go a little further. I tweeted this out. Just as a restaurant tailors its menu to its customers rather than to its hostile critics, so also pastors should focus on nurturing their flocks rather than trying to please their hostile critics. Catering to critics is a trap. Here, I have folks call the show and say, Dr. Brown, I love your broadcast. I listen regularly. I agree with so much of what you say, but I have concerns about this, or I have concerns about that, or I don't know why you work with so and so. Okay, great. That's an honest question, and I'll give the most honest answer I can. Someone else calls, Dr. Brown, I'm really wondering about this. Could you sort this out for me? I do my best to answer honestly, only to find out it's some critic who's now going to pull that and put this up on a YouTube site or somewhere else to try to expose me. That I find completely unethical. Call and say, this is so and so. I differ with you. My positions are against yours. I'm not charismatic. I don't believe in this and that. And I'd like to ask you honestly about this. Great. We can have a conversation. But the other stuff seems to be so non-constructive and with a predetermined outcome. In other words, if I fend off that accusation with a truthful answer that satisfies them, doesn't change their position, just means they go to the next question. In other words, the verdict is already made up. That I find to be constructive criticism rather than constructive criticism. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I mentioned to him how many positive reports I get, people thanking me for being gracious in my debates and things like that. And he said, well, don't just listen to the ones who speak positive things, listen to the critics too. I said, oh, trust me, for every positive word I get from my wife, I get 100 constructive critical words. Trust me, I'm hearing that day and night, and I welcome it. I welcome it from my team. I welcome it from strangers. If it's constructive, if it's life-giving, if it's not just to satisfy a predetermined outcome, wonderful. But here, let me lay some things out for you. All right? Why is it that virtually all of the critics who call the show, who write articles, who have websites attacking me, put out YouTube videos, etc., why is it that virtually all of them are non-charismatic or anti-charismatic? Where are the charismatic critics blasting me for my friendship with Southern Baptists? Where are the charismatic critics putting out YouTube videos about my association with strong Calvinists? Where are the charismatic critics blasting me for teaching at non-charismatic seminaries? Notice the criticism is from one particular camp or groups in a particular camp, and they are all coming from one direction, which fundamentally has an issue with the things of the Spirit today and with some of the abuses in the midst of the genuine moving of the Spirit. Here's a question for you. Since when am I accountable for whatever my friends and colleagues practice and say? Here, I am 10 times better friends, 100 times better friends with James White than Bill Johnson. All right? I've sat in terms of my total conversations face to face with Bill Johnson. I would say just the two of us talking face to face, total in our lifetimes, 10 minutes, maybe, maybe. The longest conversation he ever had was when he was on my radio show, when he spent an hour with me on the radio. That's the longest conversation we had. But face to face, just the two of us, a few minutes here and there. You say, why do you say you're friends? Because I've known him in different circles for years. I'm friends with friends that have worked closely with him. We have a common heart for revival and the things of the Spirit. But if I was there all the time, I might differ with half of the sermons preached. I might differ with half of the books written by his team. I might differ with lots of stuff. Okay. The same way, with Dr. White, we spent hours together fellowshipping face to face. We've worked out together. We've had meals together. We've debated each other. We've debated side by side against others. We've interacted regularly off the air. We've been on one another's shows. And yet there are many things he differs with me and I differ with him. Why? How come I'm not accountable for everything he believes? Since when do you judge someone based on how they respond to their circle of friends and associates and colleagues? Here, I teach at numerous seminaries. Some of them have beliefs that you don't agree with. Am I accountable for what the seminary says? I work with different publishers on the radio station where you're listening or the TV station where you're watching. There are all kinds of shows. Am I now responsible for all of those? I recently did a conference for a friend of mine who's one of the most prominent Southern Baptist pastors in the country. Am I now responsible that he teaches once saved, always saved as a Southern Baptist? I presume he does. Are you going to blast me for that? See, it's not a matter of wanting to hold me accountable for what my friends and associates say, which is completely bogus. Look, I've written, 32 books or something like that. I've written well over 1,000 articles. We have well over 1,000 videos out. I've preached thousands of messages. How many radio shows have we done? God knows. Hold me accountable for that. Judge me based on that with joy. But please, if you hear that so-and-so, I preached at so-and-so's church. I preached there a few times. And they had another guest speaker, and the guest speaker said that's not my business, okay? Call that church. If I endorsed a book and the book has some problems, challenge me on that, because now I'm endorsing it. But I have a large circle of friends, charismatic, non-charismatic, Calvinist, non-Calvinist, some denominational, some outside of denominations. I have friends that are absolute megachurch friends. They're megachurch all the way. I have others that are house church all the way. They wouldn't go near a megachurch, and they're all friends. I have friends who've written books that are on the exact opposite side of major issues, not issues that we divide over in the faith, but major issues that cause great discussion in the faith. And I'm friends with both, and I work with both because of the common good of the gospel. So come on, friends, let's go deeper. Let's grow up. Let's focus on serving a dying world and building up the body and helping one another and glorifying Jesus. And let's judge fairly and righteously and not get caught up in this silly, meaningless, non-productive, destructive dribble. We'll be right back.